And that is of community maturity, public maturity. I mean, we see the situation with the petrol shortage, which is really hitting. I mean, we've stopped doing things now. I cannot get a taxi to the airport today because the taxis don't have petrol. I mean, that's how immediate it is. And of course, the government has been going out and everybody's been saying, we have petrol. There is no shortage of petrol, just relax. And yet people don't believe them for whatever reasons. And now, of course, there is a petrol shortage, not because there's no petrol, but because of lack of what could be called lack of public maturity. I'm going to hold that for the next question. But I come to a question from Alan Kane. Alan, great to see you. I'm the ISRM chapter chair in Manchester. Good to see you. And he speaks about your rapid reflection force, which I loved when I read that as well. Of course, that was around EDF. That was a French electricity company, rapid reflection force, as opposed to a rapid reaction force, obviously. But nowadays, one of the significant issues is absolutely infrastructure fragility. It is incredibly fragile, and not only fragile but brittle. And we're seeing, we have Ken Smith here from Houston, who's chairman of our Houston chapter. But of course, in February, Houston, Texas went offline after 2 days of a snowstorm, and literally went off the grid. So you looked at that specifically within that sort of critical national infrastructure framework. Has this idea of the rapid reflection force, have you thought about it? Have you sort of brought that forward in your own thinking? And have you seen anywhere where that's had an impact, where you thought, you know what, you guys are beginning to understand what I'm talking about, it's making a difference?
Yes, when we invented this idea within EDF, it was a long process, in fact. At the beginning when I worked with the crisis center in EDF, the initial idea was let's have one and then two person just watching what was going on in the crisis center and giving from time to time to the president, CEO, some inputs, some lights of don't you think that, and I feel that, etc. And then when a brilliant guy came, we had the idea to have some more power and to have a group of people working exactly in the line I underlined just a few moments ago, which is fighting around the questions and not fighting to have the best answers. Because to have the best answers, you must have the good questions. I remember a minister of health in the US in 1976 with a big problem, health, swine flu affair. He said the problem was not that we didn't have the answers. The problem was that we didn't knew the question to ask. So the battle is the questions. And this is a total mentality mutation, because we are not used to do that. As I had so often, Lagadec, we are here to find answers and not to work on questions. No. Nowadays, with mutations, questions are very important. And so for those who don't know that, Rapid Reflection Force work on 4 questions. What is the essence of the problem? What are the traps? What are the actors? And if you have 2 or 3 key ideas and more, combinations of ideas, operational ideas, is now. Let's go. When you have a group like that working on questions, the leadership is in a very much better position to anticipate and to see what is possible, what is not, and what is meaning and not meaningless. The problem we have is that to adopt this process, working on questions and institutionalizing that in a crisis center is a kind of psychological and mutation, because you must accept that asking questions, having a GPS around the questions is absolutely fundamental in the driving, the navigating of these crises. So it is not so well accepted. I had the pleasure to discuss a lot with some colleagues in Brabant Wallon in Belgium, and they did that, and they used this sort of approach to crisis. But it's very rare because it's so far from the way we go generally. But I think it's more and more important, and it should be adopted at continental level, at national level, and so on. Because if you don't have the ability to tackle with questions, which doesn't mean that you don't answer naturally, but you have to be more intelligent in this situation. And perhaps we could have a seminar, especially with EDF, to know where they are now. I don't know, because the guy with whom we worked around 2000 has left, and so I don't know where they are now. I know they are still using it, but I don't have the latest information.